Hi everyone, it's Den here. Well, this is a video I have been looking forward to making since I came back from India in 2013. In March, I'm going back to India, and I'm going back with 2 cameras to make a body of stills and video work that I have been absolutely craving to do since I came back. And I'm doing it in a very similar way than I did in 2013, which was pretty nuts. I took one little camera bag. My daughter made a video at the time actually that I've only just rediscovered as being quite awesome, where we covered the one bag, tiny amount of gear stuff. Very funny. You should have a watch. So I took one little backpack. I had a Canon 5D Mark III, a 24mm prime, I think a 24-70 and a 70-200. I even took a bloody tripod and a ball of light tool. Never used the ball of light tool or the tripod. But it was a wonderful, wonderful trip. And I'll tell you why. And you'll understand the motivation to want to go back. So the reason I did it is I wanted to learn how to make portraits on the street. Yeah, I was only 2 years into my photography, and I jumped on a plane, went to Delhi, hung out on the streets of Delhi for a bit, and basically just learned how to interact with people, how to engage with people on the street, and how to make portraits. And I did a bit of travel as well. I ended up in Agra at the Taj Mahal and all the way across at Varanasi. And what did I learn? Well, the idea was to learn how to make street photographs, and I certainly did that. I think I came back with a body of work that I absolutely love, but most importantly, I fulfilled the goal of learning how to make street photos. And it has served me so well in I'm a commercial photographer and video maker. And in my commercial work, I still today, 10 years later, when I'm making an image of someone, whether it's a portrait to camera, fly on the wall stuff, video or whatever, I came to learn very quickly that it's this interaction and this making someone comfortable in front of the camera prior to actually starting to make an image that makes really good images. So my commercial work, I think, was better for it. But I made some images in India in 2013 that still to this day are my absolute favorite images that I've ever made. People on the street, people around markets, people, I even sat in the gutter with people for periods of time before we made their images. Varanasi, I got to go out on the river and just experience things that you simply won't experience anywhere else in the world. There is nowhere like the busy parts of India. So I came back with this beautiful body, and I was at a Bollywood film. How hilarious is that? So I was at the gardens across the road from the Taj Mahal, which was incredible, the Taj. I mean, I did the whole front of the gate racing in, reflection pool and all of that on my own. But I was at the garden across the river from the Taj Mahal, and this guy comes running up to me and he's like, "Oh, would you like to be in a Bollywood film?" And I'm like, "Sure." Long story short, I ended up in a tree with a long lens, being a paparazzi in a Bollywood film. That was a real highlight of my trip. But yeah, I came back from India completely changed. And ever since the end of that trip, I have kind of wanted to go back. And then recently, I discovered a YouTube channel that I am very grateful for. Gabriel Traveller is a guy whose YouTube channel I have become completely engrossed with. But here's a guy who I feel kind of, he travels a little bit like I did in India, but he's been doing it for more than 10 years. But watching Gabriel's videos, especially his videos around Delhi, just absolutely got me hooked to go back and bring into reality an idea that I've been playing with for the last few years. And that idea is of slow motion street videos. So I've always loved street photography big time, but I'm doing this project where I go out on the street and I make 100, 200 frame a second videos of people on the street that hopefully feel a little bit like street photography. And then I thought to myself that on the streets of India, in these scenes in India that are really chaotic and absolute madness, if I capture them in slow motion, it sort of brings it back to maybe how the people there experience it, because they're used to it. We see it as chaotic, they don't. So the idea is to take a video camera, make incredible slow motion video on the street, but also have a crossover between the video and the still series that I'm going to do. So here's the idea. I'm only taking two main cameras. I'm taking an action camera for some behind the scenes stuff, but two main cameras. And one of them is this, the A7S III. And this is a stunning piece of kit because it shoots beautiful slow motion and also in incredibly low light. And the idea is that, there's this moment when you're making a portrait where you interact with someone, you kind of agree, whether it's verbal or visual, that a portrait is going to happen. And then you bring the camera up and you make the portrait, and we're done. But there's this thing that happens, and anyone who has done any portraiture, especially on the street, will know that there is this process that happens between you and the person. And it seems to happen even more so in India. And that is that you agree to the portrait happening, and they're all excited. Everyone gets excited, or generally. And then there's this sort of instant of seriousness of the portrait is happening now, and then this sort of joyous relief when it's finished. And I reckon that would make a beautiful slow motion portrait, like really slow, 100 frames a second, where I'm actually recording video as I bring it up. It will automatically focus on them. We're making the portrait and we end, and that's the portrait. So that's the idea. Plus also mixed with a whole lot of slow motion footage of the areas that I go to, because I think that will be beautiful as well. But for the total idea of complete simplicity, even more so than last time I went, this time I might be able to take 4 pairs of underwear, is I'm taking one video camera with one lens, probably a 35mm with some ND filters, but I'm only taking one stills camera, and I'll tell you about that. So I wanted to take one stills camera with one lens, and for a long time I have been thinking about that as an idea, and anyone who has explored the idea will know the joy of that simplicity. So I've chosen to take a Leica Q3 with me, and the reason that I have chosen this camera is manyfold. It starts from a technical point of view. Technically, it's a beautiful, beautiful piece of camera. It is very fast. The autofocusing is okay. They're very high quality images, but the lens is absolutely beautiful. It's a 28mm lens, f1.7. Yeah, it's a lovely, lovely camera. I've been using it for a while now, and it will fit the purpose beautifully. But not just technically as a beautiful camera. If you've never gone down the rabbit hole of learning the history that Leica cameras have in the realm of street photography or reportage, that is a huge part of the motivation. I'm not going to lie, there will be something really beautiful about being on the street with a camera that has that history. I don't know if it's going to help make better images. It's just a camera, like all cameras. But that's the decision that I've made. The other thing is that it is tiny. I mean, when you're just walking around the street and you just want to be subtle and hidden away, I might put a bit of tape over this little dot, yeah, I think that this will be an absolutely stunning street camera on this trip. And there's also, I've got some other news happening in a separate video about what I'm doing with this over the next year. But yeah, so those are my two cameras. I think that, considering last time I took 3 lenses with me, this is going to be gorgeous. Tiny little bag, action camera to shoot a bit of behind the scenes. And the other thing is I'll be taking my my iPad. I figured out that, so data, when you're capturing high speed video in high quality, you use a lot of data, and I will be taking some little drives. I don't have one here, and I've done some tests, and you can transfer data through the iPad. So backing up is going to be super fast. And I'm going in March. I'm going for 2 weeks again. And I'm doing exactly the same thing. I'm landing in Delhi, hitting the street. I'm just going to wander around the streets. I think I'm going to start in Old Delhi, wander around, find people, different areas. When I see tourists, go the other way. I'll be doing things like, I won't be going to Agra again, but when I was at the Taj Mahal, here's an example of a great way to do it. So the Taj Mahal is this incredible building. I went in, I was super early, so I got all those classic shots. But when I was on my way out, the place was packed, thousands of people in there. But what I did is, rather than just taking off and going into Agra to do whatever, I went down the side of the Taj Mahal, and I ended up in this market garden with these beautiful women in this market garden with the Taj Mahal behind. I was the only person there, the only tourist that was there. Then I ended up on the other side of the Taj Mahal, and there was a this orphanage with these students in there. I went in and I took some photos of these kids, and then I went down to the river. There were a couple of soldiers there. So the thing I learned not only was how to make good portraits on the street with people, but also how to explore. That, you know, if you stay on the trodden path, you just see what people on the trodden path see. It's going to be a wonderful trip. I'm taking a ball of light tool. I did last time and I didn't end up using it. I am this time. But I'm just taking one tool with a couple of heads, and rather than a big heavy tripod, my little one. It was tricky last time to find spots where I was alone. There's something weird about having your camera 10 meters away in a place where there's a lot of people, but I reckon I'm going to find, because I'm going to a location that I think it will work. And my gosh, like, I have been lucky enough to go to some incredible places, the Angkor Wat, Easter Island, you know, all these amazing places, and I would love to add somewhere in India to that. So there we go. India, March 24, tiny amount of gear, video, street photography. I am so looking forward to it, and it's really neat to have had an idea that has been brewing in my mind for several years now, and to be bringing it to reality. Yeah, I look forward to you coming along. It's going to be a massive, massive amount of fun, more than anything. Yeah. And namaste. Let's go.